Hi. Recently, Museveni made a few changes in the permanent secretaries of ministries. Some were fired, some were rehired, and we saw some new faces. Now, among the new faces that we saw is a gentleman known as Ramathan Ggoobi, an economist, a columnist, a person who is very passionate about economics. Is a lecturer at Makerere University Business School, as well as being one of those intelligent people that really explains economics in the best way a person can really understand it, both on his Twitter handles, in his columns, as well as the things he writes about in a newspaper known as the Sunrise. Now, I'm an ardent follower of this gentleman and the things he speaks about, because most of them are the realities on ground. Suffice to say, I would say that he's a very, very intelligent guy. Now we have, before I go into Ramathan Ggoobi and my take on his appointment, I would like you please to share the video, hit the like button, and as well as subscribe to the channel so that we can break down more of these things for even everyday Ugandans to understand. Now, when I saw this appointment of Ramathan Ggoobi, I was like, oh, Museveni, for the very first time, he has done something that is really, really, he has done the thing that he is supposed to do, hire the right people for the right jobs, not based on nepotism, not based on favoritism, not based on tribalism, or not trying to silence these particular individuals. Because there are three reasons as to why Museveni would give someone a job. Number one, relation. How related are you with Museveni? Are you related to him in terms of family, or are you related in terms of distant relatives, and so on and so forth? Second reason as to why Museveni would hire you is if you come from his tribe. The tribal element also plays a very big part. Now, the third reason as to why Museveni would hire you is because you are his biggest critic. Now, the fourth reason as to why Museveni would hire you is because you are too smart. Yeah, smart. Because if you're smart, he doesn't need smart people out there telling people about what is happening and explaining to people things that are happening, because you're likely to expose him. Now, you can easily figure out where this gentleman falls, one Ramathan Ggoobi. Because Ggoobi has no relation with the first family or Museveni. He doesn't even come from the same tribe. But on his tweet, he said that thanking Museveni, he said that to His Excellency the President, thank you for the trust in appointing me to serve in this noble office. To the people of Uganda, thank you for the support and love. To the world, this simple boy from Butambala believes in economics that works and hates accountability without results. Now, the Ministry of Finance and is going to be the permanent secretary to the Ministry of Finance, because that's where the money is, as well as being the secretary to the Treasury, replacing one gentleman known as Keith Mohakanizi. Now, this gentleman has been a very tough critic of Museveni and his policies and how they do most of their stuff. We should understand one or two things. Number one, Museveni always hires the smartest people in order to make them look dumb, in order to misguide them and make them look stupid. And I believe Ggoobi being a very intelligent guy, he should know this very well, that Museveni does not hire people because of their competency or because he needs advice from them. I mean, look, in 1980, I think was it 1987, 88, when he hired one of the best economists in Uganda, a gentleman known as Dr. Dr. Sulaiman Chigundu. He was an Oxford, no, I think Dr. Chigundu had gone to Harvard or Yale. Well, he went to one of those Ivy League schools and studied economics, and he achieved a doctorate. He was one of the most educated people in the economics sector in Uganda. Now, for those of you who don't know Dr. Muhammad Chigundu, he was an entrepreneur as well as an economist. Now, Chigundu, he was the first bank governor under the Museveni regime, and he's the one that saved the Ugandan economy. because he's the one that helped in implementation of the structural adjustment programs that had been recommended by the IMF as well as the World Bank in order to help Uganda to access loans and grants. The readjustment programs had structural adjustment programs, or SAPs, had programs like privatization, whereby the government had to overload its expenditure in order to balance the deficit, as well as issues of currency devaluation in order to help the shilling to keep afloat. So all these were under the advice and under the works of Dr. Sulaiman Chigundu. Now, Dr. Sulaiman Chigundu went ahead to even create his own bank. After leaving Bank of Uganda, he created Greenland Bank, Bank Kampala. He created a branch in Rwanda, as well as creating a branch in Kenya. Now, just because Dr. Chigundu, with the power he wielded and the level of knowledge he had, because he was a very intelligent guy, Museveni saw him as a very big threat. So he went after him, went after his banks, closed all his banks. He said that he was working with terrorists, the ADF line. It always comes around for any Muslim. As long as you're successful, the ADF line will always work. So Dr. Sulaiman Chigundu lost everything. Literally lost all his properties. His bank was closed, and by the time he died, even his cases had not yet been solved. But these were the machinations and the plans of Museveni and his brother Salim Saleh in order to bring him down. Now that is one intelligent gentleman that we lost, the country lost, and we never even got to acknowledge his work. We have people like Dr. Julius Sebutinde in the justice area. She's one of the people who made recommendations about how police should not the police should not be militarized. These are all intelligent people. We had the former prime minister, a very intelligent gentleman known as Dr. What's his name? Apollo Nsibambi. We had people like Dr. Francis Ayume. All these were very, very intelligent people. But whenever they entered Museveni's cabinet and started to work with him, and not because look here, Museveni for the past 35 years, there's nothing you're going to advise him that is going to take in. Now I know very well that our brother Ramathan Ggoobi goes with a lot of vigor and a lot of willingness to work and show his prowess and what he's capable of doing. But unfortunately, what he's going to find there is a lot of nepotism, tribalism, greed, corruption. Because if someone has a deal of $1 billion shillings that he has to pass through, for the permanent secretary to block him, I don't think he's going to be happy. Ramathan Ggoobi should also look at people like Jennifer Musisi, the former KCCA executive director, how she was hyped and then later dropped. So, suffice to say, let us look at other issues or other things that Ramathan Ggoobi has said over time about Museveni. And some of his columns that he has been writing in the newspaper are known as the Sunrise. Now you're gonna see these titles. You see the impact of COVID-19 on Uganda's economy, why 2019 has been a good year. Do not be misled by the titles, because if you read these columns, they are really, really interesting. Ugandans are more indebted than Uganda. Uganda's public debt will soon begin to bite. Nsibambi and his hair choice. Why Ugandan women have many children. All these are written by Ramathan Ggoobi. So you can go and read through his articles and see the kind of gentleman we are talking about here. And it will give you an idea on who he really is before I actually delete some of these comments. And Sivambi and his hair choice, why Ugandan women have many children, how to make the budget 2019-2020 benefit the people. Here's how to make the budget transformative. Economic cost of Uganda-Rwanda standoff. We have restored growth. Let's transform. Now, the one that piqued my attention was this. Mr. President, you made 2019 a year of commissioning new factories. But where is the plan? Says Mr. Ramathan Ggoobi. Now, if you can go and read through, but and this is, I actually understand, like, he says that in the column, stop relying on agriculture. I'm one of those who strongly believe that most of the contemporary Uganda's problems will be solved or lessened only when we change the structure of the economy. To change the structure of the economy means, in simple terms, that Ugandans should stop relying on agriculture as the main source of employment. So, He says that first and foremost, fundamental factor of economics is that agriculture is always the least paying industry. Economic history teaches us that any country whose population mainly depends upon agriculture will always remain poor. And that is true. I mean, I've been here in Europe for quite a number of years now. Especially, Europe has it has it's a diverse, or the Western economies are diverse because being diverse, the government can always get revenue from different ministries or different avenues, and then use that income to subsidize the farmers and also protect the people who are into agriculture. And now the other issue is that, of course, here we have industries that produce agriculture industries that need raw materials, which we do not have in Uganda. I recently made an episode where Museveni's mango factory had closed down in an area where there was an abundance of mangoes. Opened up a mango factory, but it failed to operate. Now, what Ramathan here says is really important because not so many Ugandans today are really interested in agriculture, because everyone who tries to go out there, I've seen so many people out there doing the level of farming, planting maize. Some have even left Europe to go and rear goats in Uganda. They are saying that there is a lot of profit in goats. Some are doing many rearing chicken and all this kind of stuff. But bro, having seen many of my friends lose thousands and millions of millions of shillings in these projects, it really shows that this one of the vast things that someone can invest in Uganda is agriculture. It's not profitable at all. The world is changing, and with Uganda being very reliant on agriculture and not investing into the industry is really, really sad. And what Ramadan stresses here is that for as long as Uganda keeps relying on agriculture, we are going to remain poor. And for that, I really agree. Now, this is where it is very interesting. Plans not good as plans not as good as we think. He says, for the years the government has been singing how industrialization is one of its top priorities. However, little action was being seen on ground. I was therefore delighted to see some action during the past 1 year. The bad news, however, is that all this action, the factories being commissioned, the industrial parks being built, and the investors, mainly the Chinese and Indians, being attracted, etc., are being done without a plan. The popular view is that Uganda is good at making plans and policies, but poor at implementing them. This view is held by so many people, despite the lack of evidence about its veracity. First of all, what informed the verdict that Uganda's plans and policies are good? Secondly, Uganda's implementation record, as bad as many people believe. Uganda's implementation record, as bad as many people believe. If so, what are the key factors behind this implementation challenge? What exactly needs to be done to turn Uganda's industrialization intentions into results? Well, I have an answer for that, and I think it all starts from the top. If the head of state is not willing to empower Ugandans and have industrialization take center stage in the country and empower local industries. I mean, look here, Mr. Ramathan. Local industries have literally been put down on the floor. Like, local businessmen have literally been if you become too rich, you are a threat to Museveni, so he has to take you out. People like Sembule lost steel mills. We lost Sembule. We got roofings. People like the banks, Ugandan banks like Tefe Bank, Ugandan banks like the Wachiga Cooperative Union. I think it was a bank as well. Then we also have Greenland Bank. When we lost those ones, he brought in the South Africans under the Standard Chartered. Is it the Standard Bank or Stanbic Bank? Then he bought in Tropical Bank. He bought in Standard. All this kind of crap, So if you do not support the local industries, do not expect that foreigners are going to come with the same vigor as local industries would have. That's why you see, like, most of these Chinese companies or factories are actually even hiring Chinese and getting raw materials from abroad. These are questions we asked ourselves and led to conduct a research with the intention of answering them. The study culminated into a paper titled From Paper to Practice, Implementation of Uganda's Industrialization Agenda. First, we found that, contrary to what popular belief is, Ugandan plans and policies, when benchmarked with other countries that have been more successful, are not as good as people think. So there is the man. He says that the policies and plans of Uganda are not as good as people think. Most of Uganda's plans do not have the required detail. They are developed without a critical path analysis, clearly showing, apart from the vision, mission, goals, and objectives, the targets, tasks, roles and responsible parties, budgets and resources, time frames and schedules, outputs and outcomes, monitoring tools and risks and contingencies of intent. Now, this does not fall short of what we see right now, the mess that we find in COVID-19 and how the government is handling it, because these are the exact things that Ramathan Ggoobi writes about in that paper, and the challenges that happening and all this kind of stuff. It is really an interesting paper, and if you go and read his columns, they're really interesting. Now, he says, we, for example, found out that although at political level, the industrialization intent is clear, i.e. building industries to add value to the agricultural materials and minerals, and substitution of imports that are substitutable, there is implementation plan for this strategic direction. The devil in implementation is in the detail. Decisions are not informed by evidence. What we have in Uganda are good pronouncements, but not implementable plans. Following through pronouncements to outputs and outcomes is Uganda's biggest weakness. Several government agencies are constructing factories that are not based on any technical or business thinking. I'm even surprised on how Mr. Ggoobi can really... Anyway, I do understand that the world we live in today, you actually have no choice. Especially if you have showed clearly that you are not on your position. But if you're so critical, Museveni will always take you on in order to silence you. I hope we do not miss such kind of insight by Ramathan Ggoobi. Now that he's in there, we truly need to see things. He actually has to provide us with more of his critical analysis of issues, and that's going to be very interesting. Now, several government agencies are constructing factories that are not based on any technical business thinking. Uganda Investment Authority, Uganda Free Zones Authority, Uganda Development Corporation, NADS, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation are all involved in building factories. So interesting. It is not clear what we want to do now. It is not clear what we want to do and how. We do not know whom we want to back and whom we should not. If someone comes up and says, I want to make cars, we jump in, even where the value addition is zero. I mean, he was literally throwing a jab to Kayola and all this kind of stuff. And the so-called national enterprise economy. He actually forgot the Ministry of Defense. It is also setting up industries like that's under Mr. Sabit Mzee. Someone comes, I want to launch a satellite for Uganda. He say, oh, let us launch a satellite. Someone says, oh, I want to revive Uganda Airlines. Oh, let us revive Uganda Airlines. Without any competitive advantage. I didn't study economics, but these things I can also see. Secondly, decision-making processes in Uganda are not informed by evidence, but individual opinions and politics. Well, now that you are in there, we truly believe, we truly believe that now that you are, you know that it is informed by politics, not evidence. We hope you are not going to be looking to change that, because if you try to change that, Mr. Ggoobi, you'll need a pile of security guards to be guarding you, because you don't know the people you're going to be blocking, especially the person who appointed you. For example, we adopted the industrial park model, including defining where each park should be located, how many factories each should accommodate, and enterprises that should be located in each of the parks without any scientific study or feasibility study. We are building industries without environmental impact assessments, life cycle cost analysis, land use planning, and risk management plans. Research shows that many countries that have behaved like we are doing have built industrial parks that have not produced the expected benefits. That's what you see in Uganda's industrial parks today and the so-called factories. People are not paid. There is no market for the goods they are producing, and so on and so forth. And yet these people are supported by government, given tax holidays, and they are enjoying the taxpayers' money. He says, without a clear plan, we are likely to continue building factories without sustainable sources of raw materials, proper manpower, technology, and markets. We might also end up building environmental disasters that we think are industries. Very, very interesting insight that this gentleman writes. So, now that's one of his columns in the Sunrise, and you can go and read those columns. But when I see his work and his appointment, I believe that the appointment for Ramathan Ggoobi, he might think that because he's one of the people who wrote Museveni's manifesto of 2021-2026. He's among the group that wrote it. Now he has been brought on board. I do not think that when Museveni wrote that manifesto and when he reads his columns, he really thinks that this guy should be actually taking the show, because all these mistakes have been made, and the best thing you need is someone to come in and change everything from the top, and of which Ramathan Ggoobi cannot do. So what that means is, I hope Ramathan Ggoobi was not brought on board to be silenced, because that is what is likely to happen. And I just wish that we do not, if it comes to the worst, to lose a very intelligent gentleman like this one. That is if, because I know he will try to do his work, and whoever tries to do his work so diligently and so well is going to be flamed. You are going to see that Ramathan Ggoobi, someone, a student of MUBS, is going to come out and say, "Oh, Ggoobi raped me." Rape cases are going to surface. You are going to see allegations of land grabbing and all that kind of stuff. You just know that you have entered people's bread and you're starting to eat it, and so they're not going to feel good about that situation. So you're going to be stepping people on the wrong foot. Now Ggoobi has two options. He can try his best. If things don't work out, bow out, just leave. The other issue, you can either play ball and become part of the flock, get corrupt, and for us, the viewers, we shall not spare you. And if you think that sparing you, we are joking, by not sparing you, we are joking, I think that you will leave it to, or you will go and have a sit down with Dr. Diana Atwine. Now, let me wish Mr. Ggoobi the best of luck, because trust me, you're going to need it. Have a good one.